This is the third video in the Catalyst 101 series, and in this video I want to talk about getting started with Catalyst. Now, I'm kind of got this mindset right now as I'm doing this video of someone who has just purchased Catalyst. Maybe they're new to WordPress. They're definitely new to Catalyst, and they're just trying to figure out how to get started with this, how to get to their blogging or their business website or their internet marketing sites or whatever they want to do with this brand new theme. So with that focus in mind, let me go through some of the things that I would want to know if I first started with Catalyst, and things that will really help you kind of get going quickly and pain free. So the first thing I want to do is go to my WordPress dashboard. And as you can see, we've got the Catalyst options on the left. So let's say we've just installed Catalyst. In this scenario, this is my personal blog, let's say, that I'm setting up, and I want to just get going here. The few pieces of advice that I would strongly encourage you to kind of really take into account. When you first start with Catalyst, a huge issue that some new users have is they have this sense that they need to get it from the beginning, that they need to understand every option and everything that it does, and from the very get-go. And the problem with that is, unless you are a developer with WordPress or whatever, and you have this really strong background with WordPress, there's just way too many things that we offer here for you to be able to get everything. But that's okay. You don't need to understand everything. There's only a few core things that you need to get going and start using it, and you'll learn more as you go. And the great thing with Catalyst is you don't outgrow it early on. A lot of themes out there you can kind of get from the get-go, but you're so limited because the reason you can get it so quickly is because it's very basic. There's only a few possibilities, and of course you can understand that very quickly, and early on that feels really good. So it's easy for some to kind of get a little overwhelmed with that little bit of learning curve that Catalyst has, with the many options and the tons of flexibility. But what you can do is look at Catalyst as a kind of theme in stages. And stage one is just learning the basics, and you don't need to worry about all the other all the different stages after that. But those stages or those options or those sections or whatever will be there when you're ready to kind of advance to them. And it allows you to use Catalyst for many years to come, never outgrowing it because it's so powerful and flexible. So just keep that in mind, and don't have your expectations set to understand everything from the get-go. But I will help you learn what those basic things that you need to know to just get started. All right, so let's start by going through the options. What I would do, I would encourage you to go through the different pages, the core options, dynamic options, and advanced options, and just click through the different sections. And as you can see, there's tooltips next to many different options that you can click on. You can learn different information here, and the way you close them is you just drag your mouse in and then drag out, and they disappear. And just kind of get familiar with the different options. And like I said, if you don't understand some of these options, or heck, if you don't understand most of the options, it's okay. It's just a good idea to kind of click through and familiarize yourself with them. The dynamic options here, basically your design options, you can just kind of click through and get a feel for how we group together the different options, and what we offer with that. And then the advanced options, which is really the structuring of your site, the layouts and widget areas and hook boxes and your custom CSS, and even the custom CSS builder that allows you to write custom CSS without having to know any coding. So that would be the first step. And if you could take it a step farther by actually having kind of a sandbox website where you have WordPress installed on a website that's not live, that you don't worry about breaking, that would be even better, because then you really could actually start making changes to options, clicking save, checking your front end to see what changes took effect and everything like that. And then if things break, it's not a big deal. It's not a live site. But that's absolutely not a requirement, but something that I would suggest if you could possibly do so. So here you've got your different pages. You've kind of clicked around the different pages, and you've gotten basically familiar with it. Now the question is, with all these options, where do I start? What do I do? Well, just kind of thinking from my own personal experience, if I'm starting with a new theme, starting with a new website, the first thing I want to do is change the layout to the way I want it. So for example, as you can see, I've got a double right sidebar and my content on the left, and I want personally a single right sidebar. But in changing that, I also want to maintain the current width of 960 pixels. So let's first start by changing the layout, and then we'll change the width, and I'll show you how to do that. So if we go back to your WordPress dashboard, you go to Core Options, and then you go to Content. You'll see these site layout options. Now, the site layout options have many different options, but don't worry about anything past the initial default site layout. These are all for these extra things, this extra flexibility, but these are also things you do not need to worry about right now. So I'm going to change my default site layout from double right sidebar to a single right sidebar, or just right sidebar. Save my changes, refresh the page, and as you can see now I just have a single right sidebar. But of course the page shrunk because it hasn't no widths have been changed to accommodate the lack of second sidebar. So now I'm going to go into my dynamic options, which is, like I said, it's my design options basically, and I'm going to go to widths, and as you can see the Catalyst default widths, content is set to 480 and sidebar 1 is set to 280, and it shows the actual current wrap width or site width of 780 pixels. Now, if you do the math, you're off by 20 pixels. That's because there's actually 20 pixels of padding between the content area and the sidebar right here. And basically, as you make any changes to that, or there's actually a container left-right padding as well in your wrap section down here, this will accommodate, this will, compute that as well. So this little calculator, basically, this value calculates the widths and the paddings to give you the actual wrap width, which is helpful with knowing, different bits of information. We don't have to worry about that right now. But basically, if I were to change my content to 660 pixels, as you can see, it dynamically adjusts, and now it says 960 pixels, and that shows that my site width is back to 960 based on the increase of the content area. So I'm going to save my changes, refresh, and now as you can see, the increase in width has taken effect, and I've got my single right sidebar and my left content area. All right, so the next thing I want to do is add a logo image. All right, there's nothing wrong with the text title, but let's say that that's what I want to do to kind of add some branding to my site. So I'm going to go back to my core options, and I'm going to go to header, and I'm going to set my logo type to image, and I'm going to save my changes. And if you refresh, you'll see it just disappears. That's because I haven't uploaded a logo image just yet. So now I'm going to go to my dynamic options, go to the image uploader, browse my computer, and I'm going to upload my logo image. All right, so I've uploaded that, and I called it logo.png. So now I'm going to go to dynamic options header, and down here where it says select logo image, I'm going to select my logo.png image file, save my changes, and refresh. And now as you can see, there's my logo. So it's super easy to do with Catalyst, as you can see, and it gives you tons of control. But like I said, you only need to focus on the basics here to just kind of get started setting up your site, personalizing it, and setting up your branding. Now, just a few things I want to mention about your header, for example. Under Dynamic Options Header, you can see you've got the header left width of 400 pixels, and then a header right width of 50 pixels, and then your header height at 90. So this allows you to totally control the dimensions of your header area, and header left being your logo area, and then your header right area being a section where you can actually like hook in or display like maybe a banner or something if you wanted to do that. But I'll go into that in a different video. But that's kind of the different dimensions of the different sections of your header. Now, one little tip, let's say that you wanted a logo image to be span the full width of your header. Now, one thing you could do is just change this header left width to whatever, 960 pixels or something, and then set your header right width to 0. But a better way of doing it is to go to Core Options, Header, and then you can see there's this header right option section here. If you uncheck the Activate Header Right Area Hook option, it'll actually remove the header right section, and it'll automatically make your header left section span the entire width of your header. So then you don't have to make any width changes. And as you can see, if you click this tooltip, it actually explains that and talks about what I just mentioned. Okay, so now I've got my logo image, I've got my layout. Next thing I want to do is upload a favicon image. And if you don't know what a favicon image is, it's basically like a 16 by 16 pixel sized image that is for generally like branding. It's kind of like, you put your logo there or whatever, and it displays usually in your browser next to your address, the web address on the page you're on, and maybe the tab if you have a browser tab open. So it's super easy to do that. Just go to Dynamic Options, go to your image uploader. I'm going to browse my computer, and here I've got my favicon image, which basically is any image named favicon and has a PNG, GIF, or JPG file extension. So I'm going to upload that. And that's it. That's all you have to do to install a favicon. Catalyst knows that to look for that image, and if it exists, it automatically displays it in your browser. Okay, so we've done that. The last thing I wanted to mention as far as initial setup is I'm going to go to Core Options SEO. And this is where you can go ahead and add some basic things like maybe a homepage title, description, keywords, and just kind of get that initial search engine optimization going with your website. You can certainly change these other options by default. The defaults are generally pretty good for SEO, but if you know what you're doing, and you want to make some changes, by all means do that. And like I said, if you want to learn more, just click on any of these tooltips and it kind of explains some general SEO tips as well as how to use the Catalyst search engine optimization options. All right, so that's just some basic stuff. There's even more stuff like you could maybe go to footers and you could move around or manipulate your footer content, or there's just different things you can do. But for a basic getting started guide, this is kind of step one to kind of get familiar with some of the basic options, see how some of the things work, and get that initial branding and search engine optimization set up and ready to go. So hope you found this video useful, and on to the next one.